everyone, good to see you guys. So I see people are joining. We're gonna wait for a minute or two, let people join in, and then we'll just get started. All right, maybe a few more seconds, and then we're gonna get started. Right, I think we can get started. So first of all, thank you very much, guys, for joining in today. Those of you who are joining in for the first time, just a heads up that we generally have this kind of webinar every month where we talk about all the new updates that we have rolled out in a month. So I'm Hardik. I'm one of the founder at Xenett, and I'm gonna give you guys a quick overview of all the new features that we have rolled out in the month of November. I do have my colleagues on the call, so in case if you guys have any questions in between, feel free to leave them in chat, and we'll be answering them as we go. And we are recording this webinar as well, so that those of you who were not able to make it today, we will just share it the recording with them. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen and then I'm gonna walk you through the updates. Just a second. All right. So maybe Deepika, if you can just quickly confirm that you can see my screen, and I'll just get started then. All right, guys. So in the month of November, we had actually two releases. One that was done in November 10th, and the second was done on November 24th. It's just that the last webinar that we had happened on November 13th. So I actually at that point I already covered the changes, the new features that we rolled out in this release. So today we'll be mainly talking about the latest release that we have done, which just happened the last week, right? So these are all the new updates that we have rolled out. One of the major feature that we have rolled out is the payroll accrual. So let me now talk about what exactly this does. All right. For that, I'm going to take you to QuickBooks real quick. All right. So what happens, guys, is whenever you are recording a payroll, at times the payroll is actually or involves the different period. Example, let's just say if my payroll has some days of October and then some days of November, you would have to record an entry in your books to make the accrual, right? So we have actually automated that process. So what's going to happen is whenever you are recording a payroll entry, or maybe if you are already using, let's just say, any third party system like Gusto or ADP or whichever other system, you already would have those payroll entries being synced from those systems, right? The way it's gonna work is like, let's just say I'm just gonna kind of quickly put in the data here. Let's just say if there are some payroll taxes here. So this is what generally your payroll entry would look like, right? Now in this case, all you would have to do is just type in the period, right? In this case, let's just say if my payroll was this date 11/25 2025 to, let's just say, 12/3 2025, right? All you have to make sure is as long as you type in this date range here in this memo section, Xenett will automatically calculate like how much from this amount should go to November, how much like from this amount should go to December. Based on that, it will create the accrual entry. It will also make the reversal entry. So you would never have to worry about making your payroll accrual entries manually. This is the only thing that you would have to do. All right. Now, in order for you to get started with this payroll accrual thing, there are some configuration that you guys will have to do. So let me show you how that's going to work. So inside Xenett, first of all, make sure you have a review point added here for the payroll accrual. If you are not sure how to do that, you can just simply do it from new, from the task, and just make sure that you're gonna find the payroll accrual review point here. Okay. Once that's added, I'm gonna take you there. Okay. Once that's added, for the very first time, it's gonna ask you some configuration, right? And this is what the configuration will look like. First, it will ask you the entry start date, right? What this means is like until now you may be doing manual accruals, and Zenit may not know from which date you want to actually get started with. So you're just defining here like, hey, starting November, I want to automate my payroll accrual entry. So that's what you're defining it here. Those of you who are using our prepaid expense automation, you guys may already know what I'm talking about. But this is more like from when you want this automation to get into the effect. All right. So that's what the date is. The accrual account is mainly on the liability side. Whenever Zenit makes the accrual entry, which of that liability account that you want to use to make the accrual. So that's what generally people will have it like payroll accrual. So you can just pick whatever other account that you might be using it, right? Now this is important, the map expense account. Now for that, let me take you once again back to the QuickBooks journal entry. So what happens, guys, in your payroll entry, you may have like lot of accounts, like some accounts, maybe like there's some benefits there, there's different payroll taxes there. So by default what we do is we kind of figure out like which are the expense accounts, and then we make the accrual for that. However, uh, we have given a mapping here where you could then decide like, hey, even when the payroll entry involves, let's just say, 10 different profit and loss accounts, you can actually decide here like, hey, I only want to make sure whenever the accrual entry is done, it only does it for those selected accounts, right? So in this case, let's just say if you do not want to ever accrue any benefits as such, you can actually decide that here, right? So basically it still pulls the whole general entry, and then it will look for these accounts that you've selected. It would then create a schedule where it figured out like, hey, so in this particular case, there was this entry which was for this period 728 to 83. Out of that, this were the original amount. Out of that, it figured out like 4 days for July and 3 days for August. Based on that, it calculated what amount should be there for July, what amount should be there for August. Based on that, it made the entry. It also reversed the payroll accrual entry as well, right? So basically, all you are trying to do here is once you enable that feature, that's number one. And then once you have made sure that you have recorded that period into this memo section, that is all. Like you would never have to worry about kind of doing that entry manually. All right. And then what it also does is whenever you are on balance sheet, and then if you go here, payroll accruals, it automatically creates the schedule. It will also tell you like, hey, the GL balance matches with the schedule, and it also tells you upfront like, hey, payroll accrued for 4 days. So as long as if it's green, I know that the payroll accrual has been done. It's also matching with the schedule, right? So you can literally reconcile this balance, and when you click here, you can also look at the schedule here as well, right? So that is how we are kind of creating the schedule, reconciling with the GL balance as well. All right. So this is the payroll accrual automation that we have just rolled out. So in case if you guys have not experienced it, I would highly recommend. I already got some great feedback from some of our customers who have already put this into place, and they really loved it. So those of you who have not tried it, I would suggest you guys can give it a try. Right. So that was actually the major feature that we have rolled out. Now, along with that, we did roll out some other features. Let me talk about that. All right. Since it's 1099 seasons, which is coming up very, very soon, we have also been receiving some of the feedback from you guys, and this is one of them, which is more about adding the custom properties for 1099. So let me show you what I mean by that. So in the 1099 module, here you see the different columns. I mean, previously these columns were defined by us, and you would not be able to add any new columns from your end. So this is a new feature that we have introduced where now if you wanted to introduce some custom columns from your end, you would be able to do that. And here is how you can do that. So you go to settings, and then you're going to find this custom fields. Previously, this used to call as a client properties, But because now we have custom fields at different places, we renamed it to say custom fields. And then inside custom fields, you now see client properties and then the 1099 fields, right? Now here you can actually start adding different kinds of fields. So let's just say if you wanted to track, if you wanted to add a custom column to define what entity it is. So maybe you can think of having maybe a drop down, right? And then you can start adding like, hey, this is C corp or whatever, like S corp, right? You can start adding this value, and then you just create it. That particular column will then start showing up in your 1099 module, right? So I'm just giving you this example, but think of like in case if you wanted to not just the drop down, but if you wanted to introduce a checkbox or let's just say some sort of number or text, like you got all these different custom fields which are available here. You can add them. Now, with this, we also added this checkbox where it says reset every year, right? Now, there's a reason why we have given this option because there may be some values which would always remain same. Example, entity type, right? That's generally not going to change every year. So in this particular case, if you do not select it, which means the value will always be same regardless of what year that you're working on. In some cases, if you only wanted to introduce a column specific for the year, then you can just say reset every year, and that value keeps resetting every new year, right? So again, that's again a small improvement that we have done with the 1099. All right. So that's that. Now let me go back. All right. Manage the user's permission. Okay. So inside manage users, we have introduced a new tab. It's called permission. So these two new permission that we have introduced, it's mainly to, I would say, related to staff users, where what happens, guys, is by default, the staff users would not be able to see this template. Okay. And staff users by default would not be able to edit the client properties. So let me show you what I mean. So when you are at the top and when you're looking at client list, by default, the staff users would not be able to make any of the changes with the client properties that you've added, right? But now, in case if you want your staff to be able to access like or fill in maybe any of this information, you can go to settings and then you can now allow them, right? So far, our goal is to actually add more and more permissions here eventually as we move forward, but we just started with this too because this is something we have received from you guys. So that way, like as we get more and more feedback, we will be kind of adding this permission here so that you can actually figure out like how many or how much permission you want to actually give it to your staff. So again, that was the improvement that we have done with the user permission. All right, so that's that. The time entry from the practice level. Okay, so this is again something that you guys recommended. So as you guys might be knowing already, where previously the time tracking was only possible at the task level, right? So like the timer needs to be started at the task level only. So there wasn't a way where you could just randomly enter the time, and this is what we have made it possible. So now it's not compulsory that you need to start the timer or enter the time at the task level. In fact, when you click on new, you're gonna start seeing these two options where it says start timer, right? You just you just have the client name and you can just start the timer. We also have a note here where you could just say, hey, working on, let's just say, cleaning update. You could just type in whatever, right? So which will then allow you to just start the timer from anywhere. All right. So that's that's kind of now available at the firm level. The second similar thing is the time entry. So let's just say you just had a call with client and obviously you do not have a task for that. So what you do, you already have a client selected. You just type in, hey, I just talked 40 minutes, and you type in whatever, had a call, to review reports, whatever the note is, and then you just simply click on add, and that is how you can now add the time entry. All right, so that's those are the two new improvements with the time entry. All right. Okay, 2FA for the client portal. Now, this is something, guys, especially those of you who are very, very concerned about the security. See, I mean, you guys know that we have a magic link, but some firms are very, very particular. While the concept is really good, but they really do not want to take any risk with the data that they publish on the client portal. And we been getting this request to introduce the two-factor authentication for the client portal, right? So we have introduced this. To enable that, you go to settings, you go to questions, and then you go to question setting, where you by default it's obviously disabled. But then if you want it to enable it for your client user, and by the way, this is for the client users who are logged in through the portal, right? You just enable it. Once you enable it, what's gonna happen? The magic link, like whenever they like kind of log into their portal, it would always send them an OTP to their email. They have to enter that OTP, and then it will let them in get into the portal, right? So that's a 2FA that we have introduced for the client users. Until now, it was only available at the firm level. Like you guys could actually do it for your staff level, but then now we also enable it for your client users as well. All right. So that's that. And then the last one, again, it's a very, very small improvement, which is the project status auto changes when the work begins. All right. Um, Here is what happens, guys, is whenever a new project gets started, all right. So let's just say this is a general project, which is by default, any new project that gets started would have this status called not started, right? At times, I have seen like a lot of you guys make some changes, actually started working on the project, you guys change the task statuses, but this status would still remain as not started, right? So what all we have done is the moment you change any of your task status, which means Xenett now knows that you have already started working on this particular project. So what's gonna happen is the moment you change the task status, it will also change the status of the project and will just change it to in progress. So that is again a small improvement that we have done it. All right. So these were all the new updates that we have rolled out. Now I'm gonna also quickly go through some of the upcoming features that will be rolling out. So this is gonna be, yeah, obviously this is gonna be the last monthly update of 2025. So we will have, I think, two releases, which will be kind of doing it in the month of December, and then obviously we'll be talking about all those updates in the like the start of the next year. All right, but I wanted to give you guys a quick glimpse as to what we are building right now. So let me show you. All right. So we kind of introducing the single sign-on. Lot of our enterprise customers, it's like they have like a Google login and Microsoft login. So rather than inviting users, and then because one of the headache is, let's just say if I have 100 users, I have to manually add in all of those users, and then when someone leaves, I have to remember to log into Xenett and then manually remove that users. With the single sign-on, this is actually gonna help you guys. Like the moment you disable, like let's just say if Google account or Microsoft account, that's automatically gonna stop the access for Xenett as well. So there is no separate username and password that you guys would have to remember for Xenett. You guys could just simply log in with your Google or Microsoft. So that's a single sign-on feature that we're working on. And the next one, the intercompany reconciliation, which we are very, very excited about it. The reason why we are excited about it is because I do have various companies, and I know it's really a painful process to always reconcile the transactions on monthly basis. Because imagine You're looking at the balance. If the number is off, you don't really know where the issues are. Typically, what we've been doing is we would export the transactions in Excel from this company and that company, and then we will do some sort of VLOOKUP, find out what are the transactions from this company are not here, what are the transactions from this company are not here. So the entire process is gonna be automated. Like we just rolled out in our staging environment and I just tested it myself. It's been super cool feature, so that's why I'm pretty excited. And I like during the development process, I've also been working with some of our customers and we've been getting really great feedback from them as well. So this is something very immediate one. Like we're kind of planning to release next week itself. So again, some announcements will come on that. But yeah, that's the one of the great feature that we're kind of rolling out. With that, we will have the second release, which will generally happen around December 22. Um, for that, we kind of planning to. I'm not sure if merchant clearing will be releasing by then or not, but it's pretty close, like somewhere in January. But the another three things that we are working on is the missing entries checklist and accruals. In fact, I'm also very much excited about all these things, all the three features. uh, Missing entries is mainly about Zenit is going to identify all of your recurring expenses. It's going to create a schedule like, hey, every month you get a bill from Verizon for this much amount and it goes to telephone, right? So now imagine all of your expenses are here, meaning all of your checklists are here on one page. And then if something for whatever reasons, uh, like if a bill is not received or if expense entry is not there, you would not have to find those entries manually. There will be a place, there will be a review point that, hey, you are missing entries, right? So I'm going to go back to missing entries checklist where I'm going to actually start from the beginning because I don't know where I was actually cut off. So missing entries checklist, that review point is primarily focusing on identifying any recurring transactions from your books, and based on that it will tell you which entries that you're missing. It could be your telephone bill, it could be your software expense, it could be your any recurring entries. Based on that, like in case if you wanted to quickly make the accrual, you would be able to do that as well, right? So that way you would never have to manage any of those lists somewhere in Excel, but you would just be able to manage it inside Zenit itself, right? So that's another thing. The second thing we are in fact already working on is a merchant clearing accounts. So where like especially with the clients like restaurants or hotels where you guys have some point of sale systems and you merchant involved, reconciling the receipts as per the point of sale systems, and then the merchant is always a very complex and cumbersome process, so we'll be automating that. So imagine if you have a Stripe merchant or any sort of like merchant where you're accepting credit card, you Zenit will automatically exactly tell you like, hey, you got this balance coming out from this transactions. So typically I have seen where people exporting transactions in Excel and doing some VLOOKUP and all the different kinds of math to figure out what the balance is made up of, and this is what exactly is gonna help you find automatically, right? So that's another big feature that will be rolling out very soon. And the deferred revenue is also another thing is in our radar. So we expect to do something with that in Jan 2026 as well. It's similar to prepaid expenses where just like we are amortizing the prepaid expenses over a period of months based on the recognition period. Similarly, we'll be doing the same thing for the revenue as well. All right. So yeah, these are all the uh, like I would say the nearest updates that we plan to roll out in the December and then the early January, right? And side by side, one of the other thing that we have been already started working on is email integration as well. We have already reached halfway, so we you guys should also hear something on that, like email integration also by end of this year as well, right? So that's that. Now I'm gonna go back to chat and see if there are any questions for me to answer. I'll kind of just look at that. But I wanted to actually hear from you guys as well, in case if you guys have tried any of our recent features, especially prepaid expenses or even payroll accruals. Would love to know as well if if you guys found it helpful, not helpful, any other feedback.
Hardik, do you have a like a written procedure so we can go back? Like, I probably won't remember half of what you said. So, can you give us like a written procedure on how to do the payroll approval and stuff like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the other thing, guys, that you guys, in fact, whenever you add a review point in Xenett, and this goes true with any review point. So let's just say if you type in here payroll accrual, and if you do not know like how it works, with each review point you're going to find this info icon, and with that you're going to find some brief information, and there's a knowledge base article as well along with the video that actually explains as well how things work, right? So I'm actually looking at some of the questions. Will the payroll accrual record to the various class accounts that are included in the payroll entry? Yes, it would do that. I set up a client last time but did not do any entry. Does it start in the next period? So in this particular case, it all works based on the date that you define. So what happens is in the config. So I'll give an example, right? So in this case, I my entry start date is June 1st. Okay. So in this case, it's gonna look for any payroll entry that is done, or maybe not that is done, but that has a date after this date. Like let's just say if it's a May payroll date, it's not gonna make any accrual. But if it's a payroll dated 10th of June, then it's gonna make the payroll accrual entry, right? But even in that case, if you still face any trouble, feel free to reach out to our support. We'll certainly look into that. Erika, in this case, so far we've been using the AI behind the scene where in whatever format that you generally type in the date, it will automatically make sense out of that and it will make the accrual. But over like what we have figured out is we're gonna be defining the different kinds of date format. For now, it would work like whatever date that you type in. It does not have to be the exact date format. You could type in like January 5th and it would do it. But because what happens is as we involve AI in this process, at times we have observed like it delays the whole process by a few minutes. So what we are figuring out is instead of using the AI, we'll just define like some different standards, and once you use that, it automatically gonna take care of that. So do you guys, any of you guys are dealing with intercompany right now, or maybe the clearing accounts? I would love to know. We had a one customer and they had about like 30 intercompany accounts, and it's really a great relief for them. So at least I know for them, but I would love to know like, do you guys really deal with the intercompany in your firms? Got it. And how about the clearing account that I was talking about, or maybe some sort of the the missing entries thing that I was talking about? Like, do you guys find it painful, like finding like, hey, these are the recurring expenses that I would expecting, and then finding them? Is it like, do you guys find it painful at all, or okay, good to know, Erica. Yeah, a lot of you have already been submitting us the idea, so yeah, it's good to see that you guys are confirming. So oh, I see what you're talking about. I'm not sure what we can do here, but yeah, especially those clients where you are doing some daily entries and then the corresponding deposit entries. In that case, Zenet can certainly help you find the transactions which are causing the difference, but unfortunately not in the case of where you're just making one big entry every month. So all right, guys. I think it's been pretty great session. I would say like you guys been obviously sharing a lot of inputs and ideas. But before we sign off for the day, I just wanted to ask you guys like any questions that you want me to address as such. We have kind of like about the receipts being released. We have certainly not drop off on our roadmap. It's just that since we have been working on a lot of these features related to, see, our goal has been like, let me actually talk more about that, okay? And I'll also answer your questions on the receipts. Our goal has really been to like try to automate every single account on balance sheet and profit and loss where you do not have to review them manually, but Zenit has something to help you with here. That is how we've been prioritizing, where it involves the prepaid and accruals and intercompany and even the fixed assets as well, right? So receipts is certainly on our roadmap. We plan to do something on that certainly in Q1 itself. But so far, these last few months, we've been very much focusing on making the whole AI financial review very, very robust so that you guys would never have to review any of these accounts manually, right? So, but we not dropping that for sure. So just as you know. Janice, yes, we are also kind of doing some brainstorming around that. I should have some updates on that as well. 1099 INT. So let me talk to the team and then figure out something on that as well. All right, guys. So looks like we are all good with the questions today. We'll be just as a quick heads up, guys. So we'll be doing some webinars. I think one in January and then another one in February as well, where we'll be talking a lot more on all these new things that we are rolling out as well. So you guys obviously will kind of keep you posted about the upcoming webinars as well. So all right, so account is massively different from, yes, this is certainly also another thing that we are working on. That's also going to be available somewhere in January. So Kristen, like that's another thing that uh, Zenit will help you flag any such accounts were totally off, and you can also configure that, like because some accounts you may want to compare with previous year, period. Some accounts you want to compare with averages. So it's also gonna give you flexibility to decide as well, like how do you want to flag that. So that's also another thing that will be available. All right, guys, I think looks like we are all good for the day. Thank you very much for joining in, and thank you for your time. Sorry for the inconvenience. I kind of had some internet troubles today, but yeah, very much excited about all the new things that will rolling out, and we'll talk to you guys next year. All right. Thanks and take care.